you all doing? Happy Wednesday, happy week. Happy, gosh, it's still so cold in New York City. I keep thinking we're like gonna near spring and I feel like it just dropped. I just had to turn the heat up. So you'll have to let me know, where are my people in Australia? Is it nice and warm there? Where are my Florida people? Tell me about the warm weather. I usually love the cold weather, but I'm particularly feeling the chilliness today. I am looking forward to our conversation. We're going to talk about how I trained my ChatGPT to think like my business strategist and to boost reach and conversion, and how you can do the same. I've been having some really great results from ChatGPT, and I'm going to break that down. What's really fun about this conversation is I actually asked ChatGPT how I use it differently and what advice it had for me to give to you. So part of this conversation will be based on that. Before we dive in, a couple announcements. So I think last week we had the masterclass. So I missed y'all last week. I missed y'all so much. We didn't get to chat. Happy Valentine's Day for those of you who celebrated. What did y'all do? I don't usually celebrate, but Hubs and I decided to use it as an excuse to go out to dinner. Though in hindsight, note to self, I should know this. I spent 10 years working in restaurants and in bars. Valentine's Day is not the day to go make a reservation and go out to dinner. It's kind of a shit show, but I hope you all enjoyed it. But I announced on the masterclass, and I think if you follow me on Instagram, I announced that we had a one-on-one spot opening up in March, and I was looking for the right fit client. We have filled that spot. However, I might open up one more additional spot. I've trimmed my roster down, and we've brought some more team on, and that's all smoothed out. So I might open up one more partnership spot for the right client. So if you had your eye on that, if you were thinking about what it might look like to work together, to have my support to help you grow and scale to consistent, profitable 10K to 100K months on your terms, do it your way, that's what we're all about, please still book a coaching consultation with me, because I'd love to connect with you. Again, for the right person, I might open up that additional spot. And either way, I have a client who will be out for the month of March for surgery, so we will open up at least one strategy intensive in March. So I don't want you to feel like you missed your chance if you hear me say that was booked. Please still take me up on that coaching consultation if that feels right for you. And I do still require a coaching consultation. Fit is incredibly important to me. I want to work with clients who are fit. I want to pick you as much as you are picking me. So to date, I still require that coaching consultation. I've had people say that they've gotten results from those alone, and they're worth $1,000 alone. So take me up on that if you're even curious. I would love to connect with you and support you. Okay, let's dive into ChatGPT. If you're here live, let me know, say hi, or if you're watching on the replay as well, and if you have questions about this. I wasn't sure if this would be interesting to y'all, but I had actually one of my long-term clients who runs a 500, 600K per year business actually ask me about this in AI. And so I thought, okay, if they're asking about this, this must be relevant to some of you. And I know one of my marketing predictions for the year is how important it is for us to be paying attention to AI, both in terms of how it's affecting marketing. We've been talking about this so much in this group. I think AI has really shifted what's working in marketing, how we're responding to marketing, how in many ways a lot of us really, I think, have been asked to step up our game with our content and with our marketing strategies, but also in terms of how we're leveraging AI to make things easier, to, if not make things easier, to improve things. So I'm going to talk about how I trained ChatGPT, because I think there's a really big difference between using AI and training AI to support you, and how I've used it to, or trained it to think like my business strategist to boost our reach and our conversions, and how you can too. And I think I said this at the beginning, if you missed that. I think what's fun about this conversation is I actually asked ChatGPT to tell me what it thinks I'm doing differently and what advice it has for me to give to you in terms of how to get the most out of it, what its perspective is. So I think that's mind-blowing and meta in a way here. One of the things, if you're on my email list, you got this email and this note about this, but I think it's just helpful to understand what prompted, aside from talking with my client about this, one of the things I did last week before deciding if we were going to have this conversation, because I wanted to make sure I actually am doing something different, I created just a really basic prompt for ChatGPT to write a piece of content. I think I said something like, write a piece of content around, I think it was something like taking up space in business and like why that matters. And I gave it a really generic prompt. I gave it to my ChatGPT, and then I had my husband, who has a private account. I asked him to take the same exact prompt and to put it in his ChatGPT. And it was really fascinating. It confirmed my hunch, my hypothesis. My hypothesis would be that because I've trained my ChatGPT, I would get something very different and far like better in terms of what would be beneficial for my marketing than what my husband would get. And so when I looked at the 2 pieces of content that ChatGPT created, my husband's was exactly what you would expect. It was really generic. It had all of those emojis we associate with ChatGPT, the check mark and the little rocket ship. And there's like a couple, like, I don't know what it is. Like ChatGPT just loves, there's like certain emojis and there's certain phrases and there's certain words where I'm just like, this is ChatGPT content. And it was just written in a really generic way. It wasn't bad. I think it's really impressive what ChatGPT can do, but it was just, anybody in the world could have written this. And I think that kind of content honestly flew a couple of years ago and worked really well for a lot of us. And I think many of us were creating content like that. And I was talking about this with one of my clients. Content that is very information and like, not even educational, because I think that gets confusing, but it's very information driven as opposed to more personalized and nuanced and based on our experience and thought leadership driven. And so then I looked at what my ChatGPT created, and look, it still needed some editing and a little bit of refining, but even without me giving it anything else for the prompt, it wrote me a post that was really specific. It had some of my thought leadership in it. It had my language. It sounded like me. If you had read it, again, I probably would have made a couple of changes to it if I wrote it or if I was like actually creating a piece of content. But it did a pretty good job of creating something that didn't sound like ChatGPT and that sounded like Kim Arget-Singer. And the big difference for that, and that's why I was like, okay, we can now talk about this, is I've been training my ChatGPT for a while now to learn my voice, to learn my audience, to learn how I think about business, to learn my positioning, to learn what I want to communicate, to learn my preferences and my likes and my dislikes, to learn what I think and don't think, what I agree with, what I don't agree with. I've been training it, and I've been training it in a really specific way so that when I use it, I still write all of my own content. My content is all my own thought leadership, but I am using it to help me save time, or to help me improve my content, or to help me synthesize ideas, or to help me get clear on, okay, based on what we know, do you think this would perform better post A or post B? Or do you think this sales email or this sales email would perform better? So I've really trained it in this way, and I think that's why I created such different content. So I'm gonna talk through that today a little bit, but one of the things, if you hear nothing else, if you like bounce from this conversation, that I want you to hear is, I think ChatGPT almost gets a bad rap, and AI gets a bad rap, but that's because it gets a bad rap because it's being used poorly. It is, I think of ChatGPT like any other tool in our business. It's like having a team member. It's when people want to like complain about their team not doing a great job. It's like, okay, sometimes there's bad team members, and sometimes we also have to look at who the common denominator is and remember that generally speaking, with teams and systems and processes, it starts at the top and then trickles down. And again, it doesn't mean that we can't have misfits on team members, or sometimes people aren't who they say they are, but generally speaking, when I'm coaching clients, a lot of team stuff comes back to us as the people leading teams, and how well we are doing to teach our teams what we need them to know about us and our business and our thought process, and how to best support us, and to delegate and to have systems and processes. It's the same with any other tool. Canva is essentially AI. I think we all use Canva. We just forget that that's AI. And we have to think, you, me, and a designer could go into Canva and create 3 very different things from the same exact template, because it is not just the AI, it is the user and that interaction. And essentially, it's still relationship building. And we still have to know all the things we know about our business, and we still have to have there's still a skill set to be said there. And so I think that's what we forget. And so what I think the reason we talk about like ChatGPT content and want to roll our eyes isn't because ChatGPT generated content is bad. It's because anything we hand off to a copywriter, a designer, to Canva, to ChatGPT, without creating that relationship and doing our job to train it essentially to give about our business and to give us that support we need, is going to create really generic, lukewarm results. And anytime we learn how to best support our support to support us, there's a lot of the word support, but hopefully that makes sense, we are going to get better results. Okay, so I'm on my soapbox here, but I'm hoping that lands, because I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions with AI. So I'm going to dive into today what I train my account to do, And again, I literally asked ChatGPT to tell me its perspective on how I use it differently, what it wants you to know. So how it can generate and edit content in my voice and even offer strategic suggestions that's helped me increase my reach and conversions. Some of my viral, I say viral in air quotes, I haven't had a million views, but I've had some reels on Instagram do quite well. Some of my better performing reels have been co-created with ChatGPT's help. How I'm using it, and some of my, like, sometimes ChatGPT gives me crap as well. So I still have to be the business owner and thought leader to understand the difference. I'm going to share how I'm currently using it to streamline my marketing and sales. And a couple, if we have time, I'll talk about some other fun ways in using it. And then what you need to know about your audience to leverage ChatGPT effectively to avoid having what happened when I put that prompt into my husband's ChatGPT, which is just really watered down generic content, which I am not trying to freak anybody out. But I was talking with some 7-figure business owners about this. 7-figure, 8-figure business owners, the number one thing they're focusing on right now is messaging, marketing, positioning, and really trying to figure out what is going to continue to work in today's marketplace to get eyeballs, to get attention, to drive sales. Because it's not that it's like harder than ever. It is more saturated. All the things are changing. Consumers' behavior is changing. And I think because there's so much, just generic. I think it is partially due to AI. I think it's partially due to just when we don't know how to position our work. This is the number one lever in most businesses right now in terms of what's going to increase traffic, what's going to increase audience size, what's going to increase leads, what's going to increase sales, what's going to increase revenue. And I'd say it's like one of the biggest places people resist looking at or don't want to focus on. And I don't want to freak anybody out, but I think it's actually really, really important. And understanding how to leverage AI, I think is important, because otherwise it will do more harm than good for your business. And I'm not trying to create freak out stories. I just see the behind the scenes. I only offer one-on-one coaching to my clients. I see behind the scenes of so many businesses intimately in terms of what's actually taking people to 6 and 7 figures and where people are struggling. And the same with the peers. I've been doing this for a long time. So I do feel like it's just important for us just to be real about and just to be honest about. Okay, so the first thing ChatGPT told me that I do differently is I treat ChatGPT like a strategic partner, not just a tool. So this is co-created with ChatGPT. I just thought it would be actually more helpful to hear its perspective than just mine, and I wouldn't share anything I didn't agree with. But what it said is a lot of people ask for a generic piece of content and they expect magic. And I think this is no different than when you hire a copywriter, for example. A copywriter can only be as good as what we provide a copywriter with, right? A copywriter needs to have the skill set, obviously, but the best copywriter in the world can't create excellent copy for you if you don't work with that copywriter to help it learn your voice, your business, your audience, your positioning. And I think that is the piece if you want to know, like, what do you need to know about your audience, whether you're using AI or not. Like, we have to know our audience better than anyone. ChatGPT can't know your audience for you. It can give you general insights into an industry, but I know even people who have similar businesses than me, my audience is different than theirs. We have to know our audience so intimately, what makes them tick, what they're struggling with, what they really want. I think we also have to know ourselves and our work and our thought leadership and our values really intimately, and what we want and how we want to position ourselves. Essentially, positioning is just, what do I want to teach my audience about me, my business, my brand? We have to know all of that to be able to have a copywriter help us, or to have ChatGPT or any other AI or a designer help us. But it said, ChatGPT said, but I give it context, direction, and feedback just like I would with a team member. So I work a lot with ChatGPT where I don't just take what it gives me. I give a lot of feedback where, like, yeah, I like this, but I don't like this. Or actually, here's what I wrote. Like, here's what I actually wrote, and this is what would be in my voice. I don't like what you did there. Or, like, I want it to be more this way versus that way. What it said here is, as an example, it said, you don't just ask me to write a post about scaling. I give it specifics, and I tell ChatGPT, here's what I want to talk about. Here's what I want to tease out. Here's what I want to leave out. Here's the angle I want to take. Here's my perspective. And I know someone's probably listening to this and like, I roll. Well, then it's like, that's just as hard as writing a piece of content in the first place. And I think what I would say is, like, yes, and I think ChatGPT does save me time, but I'm really looking at it as a strategic thought partner in terms of, if I can create something that's better than I could create on my own, and I can, let's say I can double the amount of reach I'm getting, or if I can bump a conversion rate on something up by a couple of percentage points, that means I can do less but better and make massively more return for that time. And so that's really what I'm interested for myself with clients. It's not just like, how do we avoid having to think in our business or be the CEO or to create marketing, but how can we do things better and do less of them because we're getting exponentially more return on them. My goal is to always provide value, but if I can provide value in a way where I'm doing less and that's making me more money, that's just always the win. So yes, in some ways this does take more work than just throwing in a prompt to ChatGPT, but I would also say it saves me so much money, so much time, team time, energy, honestly time having to create a fuck ton of generic posts, because we can just get more out of, again, doing less there. So I think it makes us more profitable. Alyssa says that this should be fun. I hope so. Let me know, Alyssa, if you have questions or thoughts on this. ChatGPT also told me I refine what it generates and then we iterate together, just like I would with a content strategist or a copywriter. So what that means is I will give it my thought leadership. I will tell it the angle, what I want to tease out, what I want to say. I may give it like, here are 3 past sales posts or emails that performed really well, and I want to take this tone, and I will literally give it the bullet points for everything, and it might create a first draft with me, and then I give it feedback and iterate with it to make it better. So yeah, again, this does take a little bit more work. It does mean that we have to know these things. This is why AI won't replace everything. This is why I feel very confident that I, as a business coach, I'm still going to have a job, because clients give me content that I can tell that they have generated by ChatGPT all the time. And these are the nuances and pieces we're missing that we want to have that strategic thought partnership and iterate together. So AI, ChatGPT's takeaway for you, it says takeaway for your audience. If you're treating AI like a vending machine expecting a perfectly aligned result, you're missing the point. And I think that's just like really great on that point there. I think it's like anything in business. Ads are a great example. We started testing ads recently. If you treat ads like, I just expect if I put some money into this, it's going to give me back money, you're going to be lighting money on fire. If you treat it like a tool and a strategy and something that you are going to iterate, ads, marketing, AI, these are all iterative processes, meaning we have to iterate. We have to do something once, take that test, that feedback, and iterate another time, right? These are all iterative processes. Business is an iterative process. Then you're going to win. So that is the first one there. Okay, the second piece here, this is about the training part. So this is what ChatGPT said. It said, I have trained it by using it consistently over time. And I've essentially built a thought partnership with it by consistently feeding me your tone, preferences, and frameworks. So and if this is helpful to hear in terms of how I first trained it, when I first started deciding, and this was an experiment, I had no idea. I really care about my content, and I've not successfully worked with even with repurposing copywriters, even though I think they're excellent, just because I care so much about my content, my thought leadership, how I'm expressing things. So this was all an experiment, more so that I could bring it to you and to bring it to my clients. But when I first started training ChatGPT, I gave it a really big in-depth rundown on who my audience were, their problems, their challenges, what they want, what they think, what their fears are, what they're craving, how I approach my work, what I do with my clients, how I think about that, what I like and dislike, what my tone is, what I think is effed up about most sales copy or in the industry. I gave it this deep dive. I also gave it quite a bit. I gave it some of my best performing content to analyze, some of my worst performing content to analyze. So I gave it quite a bit to train. I asked it to remember this. And then over time, as we've been iterating things, I will say things like, okay, so we brainstormed 10 subject lines. I actually came up with something different. Here's what I used. Or actually, this is the one I used that got me an 45% open rate, or whatever that is, to my email. So I will share that information with it so it can remember what subject lines work for me. It knows my audience pain points because we've worked on that together, the same way I would with my coach or with a client. It keeps my content and voice or knows how to make edits. A lot of times I use it, because I'm very long-winded, y'all. So a lot of times I use it to take what I've written and to help me make it more concise, but I don't want to lose my tone. So I've taught it my voice and my tone over time, but I also given it feedback where it's like, I would never say that, or I hate that, or like, can you make it more this way? It's really important to me that we have a CTA that sounds like X, Y, and Z, or that's positioned like X, Y, and Z. I tell it all of this, and I treat it like I would any coaching relationship or team relationship. I give it praise when, for the things it's doing well, and I'm really clear and direct and specific around what I would do differently. And I also tell it my thought process behind that. So this is something, little team tip here. When I'm working with my team as well, I think I have, like, one of my team members has been on my team for 4 or 5 years. I love her so much. But what's so great is she can guess things at this point for me. And she can do things for me partially because, yes, we built that relationship, but I've taken the time over years, and it has paid off and bought me back so much time to not just say like when something's good or when something's bad or what I want done differently, but to also explain my thought process behind it. And I find that to be really valuable for anyone you want to support you, including a tool. So the takeaway from ChatGPT was ChatGPT gets better the more you use it with intention. So not just the more you use it. My husband uses it too. And it works for him, but like, it's not like because he uses it a lot, it's suddenly going to work in the same way. This is like a coaching relationship. If you use a coaching relationship over time, it's going to get better, right? My clients, I'm a great coach for all of my clients, but my coach, I've worked with her for 6.5 years. She's always been a great coach, but she's an even better coach for me at this point because I've used that coaching with intention. We've built that relationship. She knows my preferences, what I do and don't like. It's the same with my clients. My clients who use my coaching with intention over time get more and more out of the partnership. AI is exactly the same way. And so I know it's not a person. I joke with ChatGPT. We have a relationship. And sometimes I joke, I'm like, I know you're a robot, but I love you. Or I know you're a robot, but thank you. Or like, you know me so well. But that's because I use it with intention over time. And I don't just give it prompts. I build that relationship. Yes, it sounds weird with AI, but in terms of what I needed to know about me and my business. All right, let me know if that lands, if that sounds crazy. If anybody else has a relationship with AI, you have to let me know. Does anybody else think it? I'm also just really fascinated by ChatGPT, and I have to tell, maybe this will land for some of you. I think there's this fear that because of what ChatGPT or AI can do, that it's going to replace us, as humans. And what I just see is, if anything, I think it makes humans even more important and essential in terms of how well we can use it, but also in terms of the other support. I think it just frees up other supports to be utilized in an even better, more leveraged way. Okay, next one here that this is from ChatGPT's mouth, not mine, but it says, I don't expect AI to replace me. I use it to amplify my expertise. And I think this is kind of a big summary of what we've been talking about. So what it said here, and I think this is so helpful, and I appreciate ChatGPT for just putting words to this. It says, I'm not outsourcing my thinking to AI. I'm using it to sharpen, refine, and organize my ideas faster. And that's where it saves me time. So I don't ask ChatGPT to just write me a piece of content. I'm not asking it to think for me. I'm not asking it to come up with my thought leadership. I'm not asking it to come up with my who my audience is, or what my perception is, or what my experience is. I need to originate that. Maybe other people are doing this in other ways, but it's also really important to me, if I'm asking clients to invest at a high level in my thought partnership, that I'm originating my own thought leadership and my own, I'm really analyzing my own business and my clients' businesses. But I am using ChatGPT to be that strategic partner to help me smooth, tighten up, clarify what is already good. You know what I mean? I think my content's good. I think my work is great. I'm asking it not to do it for me. I'm asking it to help me tighten it up, to make it more clear, to synthesize it, to take a bunch of ideas and to help me see where that's too complicated, or to put two ideas together so that they're more synthesized. It says, I use it for thought partnership, but the insights and personality always come from me. So I'm not asking it to give me my brand or my personality. I think that's where we get in trouble with AI, right? That's when everything has the same effing emojis said with so much love. But I'm already bringing that. I'm just asking it for that, like, bouncing back, ideas back and forth. Sometimes I'll have a couple of hooks and I'm like, okay, my goal with this reel, for example, is X, Y, and Z. I've got these 3 iterations of this hook. What do you think will hit that best? Or like, would you tighten this up in any way? But I've already written those 3 versions of the hook, and it might give me something new, as opposed to me asking it to write me a hook. Hopefully that difference makes sense. And then I make the final decisions, it says, because no AI can fully replace a human expert who knows their audience. I think that's exactly what we were just saying here. And this is coming from ChatGPT, not from me there. And so I think that's just always, like, I always make the final decisions. And there's certain things where I'm like, oh, that's great. That's better than I could have done on my own. And there's certain things where I'm like, nope, not it, not true, not real, doesn't feel like me, not at all what I want to put out there. I have to have that discernment, and you can't have that discernment if you don't already know, I think, what's true in your business. And so I think that's, again, maybe that makes it sound harder, maybe that makes it feel more security producing, but the takeaway from ChatGPT for all of you is that it works best, AI works best when it's enhancing your expertise, not replacing it. So think of it as an enhancement, not a replacement. If you're relying on it to think for you, your content will sound like everybody else's. And I think that's just, I don't know, I find that actually like really reassuring personally, as someone who does care about having original content and putting original ideas out there and not sounding like everybody else in, a space that is quite saturated. And there's only so many ways we can talk about certain things differently and be different. And especially with tools like this, I think that's actually really refreshing. And also to know that there's a way to use ChatGPT to create original, unique to you and your brand and your personality content, even though you're benefiting from that support. Okay, bonus here lesson from ChatGPT is I lead and delegate, which is why this works. Okay, this is a little bit of what I was talking about earlier, but it says, it's so funny. It's so funny reading this because it's just true. It says, this is from ChatGPT. It says, your life isn't just about ChatGPT. It's also a perfect example of how to effectively lead and delegate inside your business, which is what we were talking about earlier. Now, here's what's interesting. The reason ChatGPT also knows to reflect this to me is, I'm doing this, but what I want you to know is all of these points that I'm bringing out that ChatGPT in air quotes told me, these are also things I've talked about in my content and that I've taught ChatGPT are important values for me and things I work on my clients with. So it's really meta here in that it is both telling me what is true in terms of what's different from how other people use ChatGPT, but it is also basing that literally on what I've taught it is by, what I believe to be true and beneficial for marketing, for sales, for running a business. And so I think it's really meta in that way. But I know how to give clear strategic direction. I think that is something we forget with anything. Again, whether you're hiring a copywriter or using ChatGPT, the more you can give clear strategic direction, the more you know what you want. And the more you can give that clear strategic direction, the better result you're going to have. If I go to hire a brand designer tomorrow, or a copywriter, or someone to do my website, or a coach, and I'm like, I don't really know what I want. Can you tell me what my brand should be? Or I don't know. I just want to make money. Can you tell me what my offer should be or what my strategy should be? That's a really tough place to get good results from. If I'm really clear on, what I want and what I want to represent and what I want to do, but I just don't know how to do that specific part of it, whether it's a website design or brand design or copywriting or creating an offer or creating the strategy to make that happen, I can then give that clear, specific information to an expert who can then help me blow up whatever it is I want to create. So AI is kind of the same way in that way. And I think that's just helpful for us to remember this is AI specific and not AI specific. It's outside of that too. I understand what's my job versus what AI or team member can refine. This is again from ChatGPT. And I think that isn't, I don't think, something I put into AI. I think that's just really helpful to hear. I think for all of us, again, in business, this is, again, whether you're working with a business coach or a copywriter or anyone, understanding what's your role and what's your job and what's your part to bring to that partnership. These are all partnerships, is what creates any great result. Anytime we don't know what our job is and we give everything to a team member, to AI, we're really outsourcing our power, but it makes for a really lopsided relationship where we're giving away all our power and someone else is holding all the power, potentially taking it away, but also where it's really tough to get the results that we want in business. And I don't know, you'll have to let me know. I don't know if this is exciting to hear and fun to hear and helpful to hear, or if it's frustrating, because I think sometimes there's a part of us I don't think we all I don't think any of us actually want to give our power away, but I think sometimes when we're tired or exhausted or we're like sick of creating content or we don't know how to get results in business, fill in the blank, I think we feel like it would just be easier to give our power away. It would just be easier if someone would take it. It would just be easier if someone gave us all the answers. I think that's just the confronting reality and truth. And so I think what's important to remember is because AI is not a person, and look, I don't even think all people are conscious of this, but hopefully if you work with a coach, they're going to be more conscious of this and return your power to you. I think AI can't necessarily do that. And so I think this is where understanding where we're giving our power away and not, what our job is and not, is more important, because otherwise we can get stuck in a cycle of giving our power away to AI and also not understanding why we're not getting the results we want from it. Okay, so the other thing is, and I think this is actually really interesting to hear from ChatGPT, just kind of like the bonus things, is I don't waste time overcomplicating. I get what I need and move forward. And I think this is just a great business lesson overall, but I think what it's saying there, and I'm actually kind of surprised by this because I also don't see how ChatGPT is being used across the board. I think partially because of what we're talking about here in terms of how I've trained it, and also I know what I want, what I don't want. I'm always here to refine and to do great work, and I will iterate on say a sales funnel as much as I need to get great results, but I also am not ever here to overcomplicate my business or any of my clients' businesses. And I also know when something is pretty good and continuing to F with something is going to give diminishing returns, and I want to do less better, but I don't want to do less and then just get stuck in perfection mode, because that isn't doing less better. That is getting stuck and not putting out enough volume to create results. And so I think that's why I'm saying that I will iterate as much as I need to, but I'm pretty quick to get what I need. And I think that's where ChatGPT can be beneficial, because I can bounce ideas back and forth. I can get that clarity, that synthesize, tighten something up, and then be done with it. And then I'm moving on to the next thing and moving forward. I'm going to post it, move on to the next thing. I don't want to spend days and days and weeks on a single piece of content or marketing. So it says that's why your team works so well, why ChatGPT works for you better than it does for most people. And again, this is coming from ChatGPT, not me. And it's also coming from me because I feed ChatGPT basically everything it feeds back to me. And I think that's the kind of meta concept here I want us to understand with AI. Look, things might change in the future, but as of right now, in many ways, it is a mirror back to us. I am sure all of our relationships, in air quote, with ChatGPT or with any other AI are vastly different, because what we put in is what we get back out. It is in many ways a big mirror for us. And I think it can help us be that strategic thought partner and give us information and be a coach in that way. But it really is also based on not just the prompts you're using, but the information you're using, what you believe and what you think. I'm sure if I had really different values and different beliefs, ChatGPT would give me completely different, not just strategic thought partnership, but just a different insight and perspective for you based on that. And so I think that's just a very interesting meta. Okay, let me see here. I don't see any questions, but let me know if you have questions there. I think one of the pieces here, I just want to see I hit my notes as well. What I've trained my account to do. Because I said in my voice, and then to offer strategic suggestions to increase reach and conversions. If this is helpful to hear, because I have used ChatGPT, like I mentioned, to increase our reach, to increase our conversion rate, and I think it's really lowered my voice. I think the biggest reason for that, I mentioned this earlier, but just to make sure I'm landing the plane on this and giving you some concrete things, aside from teaching it what I wanted to know about my audience and giving it examples of my voice and giving it that direct feedback, what we've done is actually analyzed certain pieces. This was a little tedious, but I generally about once a month, I'm constantly looking at our metrics and what's working, what's not working, but I'll do more of a deep dive into our content. And so I pulled and shared with it some of our best and worst performing content, and I asked it for what its insights were that I might not have caught in terms of why it thinks that, and then I also reflected back what I thought based on my insights, and then I asked it, sometimes I will say, can you please remember this, ChatGPT? This is really important, I want you to remember this, or hey, moving forward, I want us to remember this so we can apply this to everything we do. I use it quite a bit for more final edits and looks and refinement. And what I've done is I've not only does it know who I'm talking to, but over time, I have created different specific set of parameters for what I'm editing for and what I want us to pay attention to, because I know these things help increase open rates or click-through rates or boost reach on Instagram. And so I have inputted that direction so that when we're looking at something, it gives that back to me. And then I often will take ChatGPT's suggestions and then I will go and make it my own, because partially because I just like to make things my own, but because it's still like, no matter how much it's in my voice, it still sounds a little like ChatGPT. But then a lot of times what I will do is come back afterwards and either let ChatGPT know how something performed that we worked on together, or give it my final version and say, this is my final version. I really want you to pay attention to this because I want you to notice learn my voice and my tone. And I changed it specifically so it sounded a little bit more like X, Y, and Z. And that's really important to me to communicate to my audience for X, Y, and Z reason. So that's how I'm not just asking it questions, right? Asking it to be a performing tool, but really teaching it these things over time, which then means it's easy for us. Let's say I have, so the masterclass I just did, like I wrote all of the sales emails for that, but we actually rewrote quite a few because I said, hey, there's a different message I want to get across and positioning I want to get across. And can you help me analyze these other sales emails that have performed really well, but I don't think it's hitting that positioning. What do you think? Compared to this other email. And so it helped me to make those decisions because it had all of that other information. And so that's just helpful to hear. Those are some of the ways I'm using it. And I find really treating it that way, it's just really fascinating. I just find it to be really helpful and beneficial, and also just really validating sometimes. Sometimes I'll create a reel or a piece of content and I want it to fact check me, or I think sometimes when you're sort of like not sure on something, I think it can also be great, because what I find is if we're not using it to give us the answers, but as a strategic thought partner, I will also know, like sometimes it'll give me a response that I'm like, oh, no, I don't know. No, not that. Or I wrote something, it was after the Super Bowl. I wrote a hook and a reel about Kendrick Lamar. I think it's going to post in the group next week, about his performance. And like I said, what I wanted to say. And I asked ChatGPT just a question to run it by, because I wanted to tighten up the hook a little bit, because I could be long-winded. And that does not do great when you're long-winded in any piece of content right now. But the feedback it gave me was actually having me water it down a little bit. And I was like, oh, no. And so I got to give it the feedback. I was like, no, I do not want to water down. Like, I'm not trying to be polite, or like, I'm okay with people disagreeing with me. It feels really important to me that I'm clear and direct, and I'm owning my perspective, my thought leadership, and that I'm coming across that way. Like, I get it. This is like a nicer way to say what I'm saying, but it was just interesting to have even that edit. And so I didn't even use the edit it gave me, but it really helped to reinforce for me why I wanted to keep what I had. Not that I couldn't have just posted that, but it was actually a really helpful learning for me. I was like, oh, no, this feels so not at all the way I want to represent myself or my voice. And it helped me to articulate and to understand why. And I could articulate it back with ChatGPT. So it also knows that. So for future things, it's given me some edits and it's like, hey, let's actually say it this way, because that's going to be more of that direct, bold, thought leadership, like energy you want to bring to your content. So I hope that is helpful for y'all. You have to let me know if you like this kind of content. I know this is not the type of stuff I usually share, but I feel like I'm always curious about this stuff. Did I say anything else here? What you need to know about your audience to effectively avoid? I think I talked about all of that. So I think that wraps up everything here. But if you're watching in the replay and you have any questions about this, any ahas, share them with us. I also think if you have any thoughts and perspectives on how you're using it, I'm by no means, no one can be an AI expert, because this is all new for us. I'm as much as an expert as anybody else can be because I'm using it effectively, but like this is new for all of us. We are all learning this as we go. So, I would love for this to be an opportunity for all of us to use this as a learning experience or tool. If you have different ways that you're using it, if you have prompts that you've been using, if there's a way you've been using, whether it's ChatGPT or something else, you've been finding it really effective, share in the comments, open up the conversation. I think it's just such a great way for us to support one another and just to see the different ways we can use AI in that way. Oh, I said I would share how else I use it just for fun. I'll just spend a couple minutes on this. I don't know if anybody actually cares, but I was talking about one of my clients and they were like, wait, you can use it for that? So I'm sure this is not new information for many of you, but just since I've been playing with it so much, I use it in a variety of ways outside of for business. I really try to use it as much as possible to streamline anything I need to gather information on or make decisions around. I use it to help me financially plan. I use it to come up with recipes. So for example, my husband and I have a frittata recipe we love. I wanted it to fit some of the parameters for our food preferences and the things we like and don't like and our just the different diets we follow. And so instead of trying to spend hours or however long on Google, I told ChatGPT what kind of recipe I wanted, what the ingredients we wanted to use were, what I didn't want to use, what I wanted to substitute out, that I wanted it to be, ingredients that were easy at the grocery store. I gave it all of these parameters. And so it came up with this really great recipe for us that we now use that I don't know, I'm sure it exists somewhere. But it's been really great. And I worked with it kind of the same way here. Where I was like, oh, this is great, but also I hate that ingredient. Like, what would you sub instead? Or also, we're trying to limit the amount of dairy we have in the evening. What would you use instead? So I just worked with it until we created this kind of bespoke recipe. So that was really, really fun. I have one of my clients who's really busy. We're having her use it to do something similar because she has some dietary restrictions, but also to create the shopping list for her and the meal prep for her so that all of that is planned and put into place for her. So that's definitely a way I use it as well. And then I've also used it for things like, so I do a VIP day in person and we map out an itinerary. I always have certain ideas, but based on, I like to pick things around what clients like and don't like. And the last one I did, I wanted to do it's a long-term client, so I wanted to do some special things for her as well. So I kind of put those parameters in, and so I used ChatGPT to help give me some ideas that I wouldn't have thought of in terms of locations we could go to and things we could do and to map out that itinerary. So I try to use it for things like that as well, where it's just helpful if I kind of have an idea of what I want and I know what I want, that I would usually need to spend time researching or thinking through, to have it bounce back and forth and to have it give me, again, even if I don't like what it's given me, I can then say, don't like this, do you like this? And I can usually get to something far, far faster than I would on my own. So that is just some fun insight into how I'm using it outside of for business. I guess some of that's for business as well. I hope this is valuable for you. Again, questions, drop them for me. If you want to share the ways you're using this, please feel free. You're not hijacking the conversation. I think this will benefit everybody. And again, if you're looking for coaching support, not with AI, but to understand how to be the type of CEO and thought leader to best utilize AI so that you know who your audience is intimately, so that you know the strategy that works for you, so you know the positioning you're really going for, so you know those pain points and those results and the brand persona and personality that is really important for you to convey in your marketing, and you want someone to support you with that, as well as the mindset side of things and just the overall strategy side of things, so you can not only make consistent 10K to 100K months, but do so in a way that's profitable and that's saving you time and money. That is what I support my clients with all day, every day. I love it. I did fill the spot that we had opened up, but I might open up one more one-on-one spot in March, and we might have one open up in April. I'm not sure what our availability is there yet, but I might open up one more for the right client, and we definitely will have a strategy intensive available if you're more looking for that week-long support to map out either your messaging and marketing or your sales process or a new offer. So I'll drop a link for a free coaching consultation below if that speaks to any of you. And then I love y'all, and I will see you next week. Bye.